Welcome to another installment of Introduction to Philosophy. We're going to be discussing a good bit here on Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes was another big figure in modern philosophy, and basically I'm going to be discussing two big things about Hobbes here. One of them is going to be his thought about minds, one of the other his thought about morals. And you might see that they're a little bit egotistic, or egotist, because he's going to argue a materialism or a epiphenomenalism, depending on how you look at it. And he's also going to argue that a egotist set of morals, which really there is no morals there besides a self-seeking thing, which is kind of what human nature is. And we'll be discussing this idea of a state of nature, which is kind of like the way things are, and things are always going to be that way. However, we kind of have a responsibility, according to Hobbes, to break it. Now, he says that human beings are like matter, or like atoms, moving about, and they move by passion, and they move by certain things. This is basically this is kind of like against this whole idea of Cartesian dualism, and we've discussed that already. And he has two methods: one of resolution and one of composition. Resolution has to do with analysis of complex wholes or composites in the metaphysics world into simple elements, and the composition is elements reassembled and composed again. And he discusses life, is where we have living and non-living and things, and there's no soul to be found, by the way. And there's nothing that is non-material. Everything is material. So you might say, in the old sense of the world, that he is a materialist, but there's interpretations of his writing, not only in the Leviathan, but there's one other work I can't remember. They can't remember the name of it. I'm not an expert on Hobbes. He says that life is almost like a automaton or a robot, where we are just moving about and we are going toward a certain thing. We live by motives. Motives is a big one here. And it's where life just moves because of a motive. And he thinks about the idea of a automaton, and think about, can a automaton think? And he comes to this whole idea of what is thinking, or what is thought. And thoughts are just things that represent bodies. It doesn't have to be anything more than this, just robotic, machinic, moving towards certain motives, or because of certain motives. And there's and we just did Leibniz. So different from Leibniz, there is only res extensa and no res cogitans, where Leibniz is like there's nothing extended, where Hobbes is like where everything is extended. There's nothing non-material. Everything is extended. There is no soul part, and everything thinking and everything going on in here can just be is all just because of this. And this is what is thought of as a materialism, which is the whole doctrine. Now, nowadays we have kind of disseminated the whole idea of materialism into various different thought processes, but in this case it's materialism, where experiences are only diverse notions of matter, and matter is basically motion. And when we experience things, according to Hobbes, when we experience different things, when we have perception and sense perception and seeing these phenomena. That's matter in motion, and we have these appearances, and he kind of comes to this conclusion, which could be interpreted as being epiphenomenalism rather than just materialism. And there's no distinctive mental qualities. There's no mental part which can be possibly separated from this physical part. And he says that the appearances of motions are fancy. He says that the way things appear, how things look to us, they look fancy and intricate and nice, or not really nice, but just like really different, and they look like there's something to be investigated. He says that appearances distract from the actual motions that are occurring. So this could be interpreted as epiphenomenalism, where there are unique mental qualities causally dependent on physical entities, not affecting the physical world. So where we have mental qualities of the things that we see, which are dependent on the things that we see. So we are seeing something which is dependent on mental qualities and the things that are in the physical world. However, the things we see have no effect on the physical world. So this is, in a way, materialism, in that everything we see is of the physical world only. Only everything we are is of the physical world only. However, we do have unique mental qualities, which are dependent on the physical world and have no effect on them. So there's different interpretations on this, and this is also referred to as monism, where there's only one kind of substance being inferred. So that's kind of his whole idea on minds. Here we'll kind of move towards discussing his morals, and here we discuss the state of nature, discussed in the Leviathan, where the human ego is governed by its passions and its desires, its egotistic passions, and we have egotistic desire and motivation. And those things motivate us to do things in a certain way, and it's kind of this whole idea of the state of nature means that everything is this whole egotistical, horrible and difficult way of things. However, we have the possibility of breaking that. And passion and reason both can overcome this state. And he also discusses mortality, the passion of fear of death, and how the state of nature is not good, bad, evil, or right and wrong, unless a person thinks that. So there's no moral realism. There's no it's basically kind of relative to your own thoughts. So there's no moral realism. There's no moral anything beyond this. And he does discuss that we have liberty to pursue your own happiness, but it's kind of should be something beyond this egotistical drive to ensure that your motivations are satisfied. And one way to break that state of nature is the idea of a social contract, which you'll find also in Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and that's kind of the whole thing here. He has a philosophy of mind, which is a epiphenomenalist one, in my personal opinion, also a materialist and monist one, and he also has a morality, which is egotist. So this will be it for me on Hobbes, and I'll be moving on from here to probably Locke. And let me know what you think and any questions you have. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next installment.